Hello again. Thank you very much for joining me here on Movie Ninja. Tonight I'm going to be talking about The Boys Season 3. Okay. The Boys has always been an extreme example of a different point of view of what the superhero community and superhero culture could be, just taken just a little bit. And some of you are like already cracking grins like, did he just say a little bit? Like seriously? Yes, they're just taken a little bit more into the nihilistic, if you can even have such a thing as like a little bit of nihilism. It's almost like saying, like, in terms of what The Boys is, that's almost like saying, oh yeah, it's just like there's a little bit of nuclear war. It's like, it's just a pinch, just a little bit of nuclear war, just a little bit of fallout. In terms of like comparing it to seasons 1 and 2, this is the most extreme. It's most extreme in terms of, in my opinion, it's the most extreme in terms of violence. It's the most extreme in terms of lewdness. But where it really differentiates is, okay, you've shown us this before. What else can you give us? And where it completely succeeds above and beyond expectation is character development. Now, there are a lot of different characters that I can talk about, but the character that has always personified the series, that has always really brought this show into what it is Homelander. Now, for those of you who are unaware, those who have not seen any of The Boys, Homelander is the twisted, inverted pastiche of Superman. You know? Homelander is supposed to be the iconic, personified emblem of westernized United States values, just in one being. You know, essentially, like, in some ways, what people have distilled and placed on top of the shoulders of Superman, in this series, that's Homelander. And that being said, Homelander is an incredibly dangerous, psychotic weapon of mass destruction in and of itself. Homelander is what happens when a monolithic capitalist monstrosity of a corporation, Vought Industries, gets into the superhero game in and of itself. So, in terms of development, Homelander now, and that, like, before I continue, there are some heavy spoilers. Be aware, okay? So, this season, we have Homelander really flexing his muscles to the point where now he is in pretty much, like, from episode 3, like, forward. It might have been like 2. It's not an easy series to rewatch for notes. I'll just put it to you that way. But very early on this season, he finally has control. He has always wanted control, validation, and overwhelming, like, affection for just being himself, for just being who he is. He doesn't understand, even though, like, he is someone who represents, he's supposed to be a bastion of goodness. But what is more important to him is just actualizing, like, what he wants to make himself feel good. And oftentimes that is with the exercise of violence. Often it is the way that he harasses and overwhelmingly dominates people around him, those around him, just with the threat of violence, you know, just being more than anything, you know, like not even to intellectualize it. He's the worst possible bully with superpowers. But he is now in control of Vought. Now the boys, Billy and his crew, they are still doing what they do best, which is keep bad superheroes in check. You know, either like by crippling them or, by, using the Deep Six option. Okay? And they have a means of evening the playing field a little bit for themselves because someone on the inside has given them just a bit of an edge with Temp V. Now, for those of you who are unaware, superheroes were manufactured in this world. It wasn't some means of like magic and then that kind of spiraled into sort of like the 20th century where like we have a different version of like the Gold Age or the Silver Age or the Bronze Age. No, or like some massive, like, I guess you could say like, yeah, it was still like by science, these are still like superheroes that were manufactured through science, but it was for a very, very specific purpose in the fallout of World War II. So with these characters, what's happening is that it's an arms race of a different kind, but just with, capes and superpowers. That's essentially like what it is, And from here, what we have is a story then of Homelander. Now he has part of what he wants, which is control over what he sees as his control over Vought is greater control over his own life and his destiny. To sort of like have himself be just the beloved ruler of the world, essentially. I mean, this show has never had a supervillain. It doesn't need it. Like, a lot of the drama comes about from the superheroes sort of just being assigned celebrity positions. They're superheroes, but they're celebrities. They go on talk shows. They have movie deals. They have book deals. And yeah, every now and then they'll maybe stop a bank robbery or, I don't know, some sort of act of domestic terrorism. Usually, now in seasons 1 and 2, we have seen that these are escapades that are primarily set up by Vought. These are just like, unbeknownst to the public, these are just events that are set up to make the superheroes look super. There we go. Now, Homelander is running the show, and he has no idea what he's doing. So, okay, you have this incredibly dangerous man-child now in control of a multi-billion, for all we really know, because they've never actually said the finances out loud, but it possibly could be like multi-trillion dollar company. He doesn't know how to run a business. He doesn't know how to manage personnel. He doesn't know anything about actual leadership. On top of that, we also come to know that, like, whereas the boys have a bit of an edge now with temporary Compound V, they have, like, Billy and Huey very briefly gain superpowers from temporary Compound V. So what it is, for a very small window of time, if you take these injections of Compound V, then you will have superpowers. But it wears off very, very quickly. So they do their thing. And in the ongoing quest to take down Homelander, who is really like more of a villain than people have ever known, have ever like realized, because part of the Vought machine has always been covering up the crimes of their heroes, because the heroes are hedonistic in this world. I'm not saying like all over like comics and like whatnot. But in this world, they're just hedonistic celebrities, and they have their own PR people. They have fixers that make controversies just go away. As terrifying as it is in the real world where this stuff actually happens, where crimes are committed against people and there are structures in place to keep certain criminals active and out of the arm's reach of justice, that also happens in this world as well. So what we have is a situation now where Billy and his crew, they have a bit of an edge thanks to Temp Compound V, but also they come to they find a weapon in what was assumed to be a casualty of the Cold War, and that is a pastiche of Captain America called Soldier Boy. Now, Soldier Boy, tracked down by Billy and the boys, he was the Homelander of his day. He was the most powerful superhero. Like, physically, he was the most powerful. And through a series of betrayals was handed off to the Russians. And from there, they did experiment on him when he was comatose. Well, he was brought in and out, because they do mention that like he was like tortured. He was experimented on. The experiments were a sort of means of torture, but at a certain point, his powers became far, far too great. And so what they did was they put him in some sort of suspended animation. They put him in a medically induced coma. They bring him out of the coma, and then they say, hey, you know what? We need you for one last mission. And the mission is to take down Homelander. So, as far as like spoilers go, I'm actually going to like leave it like there. If you have not seen it, and you have seen seasons 1 and 2, I would highly recommend this third season. Because like I was saying at the very beginning, it's one thing to give us a story of extremes, either of extreme violence, extreme lewdness, or extreme allegory, because there is a wealth of metaphor and allegory for what these heroes represent versus like, you know, what their real life counterparts are, and it is extremely fascinating in and of itself. Like, before I like nerd out and try and just this video, if I felt the need, could easily be 2 to 3 hours long to just like go on and on about my thoughts about like what each superhero represents and just what that means as far as like what the writers were taking from the real world. But you know what? I'm going to try to keep it as brief as possible as I try to, because I don't really have like notes when I do these uploads, when I do these episodes. I usually just try to let my thoughts just kind of like flow, but you know, I'm trying to rein myself in. Anyways, so this does this is by far the most extreme portion of the show, but it does back up a lot with we learn even more about Billy Butcher. We learn more about the legacy of the homegrown Vought heroes and how that has compounded and changed into the contemporary, the Seven, the sort of like the Justice League of this world, and what that means, and how it is it is dangerously too easy to have hero worship very, very quickly become monster worship. How very easy it is to slip into the cult of the personality and then just either look the other way, you know, from atrocity, or debatably, what is even far worse is to embrace that atrocity, embrace those very hurtful, inhumane agendas, and say, that's where I'm standing. That's my team. You know, it is so, like I said, and some people will say, like, well, it's just a superhero show where people blow people up. You see a bunch of splatter. You see a lot of, you see the air is dry. You see a lot. You see extra, like as far as like the bedroom content is concerned. Yeah, there's definitely that. It's definitely not for prudes. If that's all that you see, okay. But the thing is, like, for what it is a showcase of corruption and debauchery. I haven't seen something like this that had all of these, you know, like on streaming for the superhero genre. I haven't seen something like this that had these elements and still had something to say, you know? And so that's where I have to praise it. It's definitely not for everyone. And that's the thing that, even as I've been talking about it with my friends, even as I have been singing its praises and having multi-hour long conversations with people about how this compares to like other sort of like anti-hero narratives from other authors, from other like comic book series like The Watchmen and like that. You know, I do stress. Okay, this is not Batman the Animated Series. This is not Justice League Unlimited. Like, if you get into this, and somebody was like, well, you're contradicting yourself. You're kind of like warning people, like, just letting you know, okay? This is not something for the faint of heart, okay? There is a lot to take in of the series overall, because I do find the series to be very strong for what it is. But season 3, it is the most boys that The Boys has been yet. And with that, I give it a very strong recommendation. If you are, you know, if you are someone who has like seen the series and wondering like, is it worth, you know, it's like, is it worth my time and my attention? I say 100% yes. 100%. Okay. If you're kind of curious, you know, might I like this show? Start off with season 1. If you have Prime, start off with season 1, and then you'll very quickly know if this is something that you will be into. Like, if you can, you know, if you can withstand it. That's the thing. So anyways, I will leave it at that, you know, to try to keep it under like a manageable time. But if you have stayed with the video for the duration, thank you very much. You're a champ. Also, if you are wondering, like, hey, you know, like, why, you know, like, where's your ninja black tee? Well, it's summer, y'all. So I mean, I'm just embracing the season. You know, trying to switch things up just a little bit. Okay. But anywho, thank you very much for joining me for this season review of The Boys. Have you seen it? What are some of your thoughts like on it? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you once again for joining me here on Movie Ninja, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.